Something about the photo did not add up. It was supposed to be a harmless WTA 2026 promotional post, a celebratory image meant to sell the tour's new era as glossy, unified, sponsor-friendly women's tennis. Within minutes, fans noticed the same thing the social team clearly had before they hit publish. Aryna Sabalenka was there, front and center, wearing the wrong logo in exactly the wrong place. Then the post vanished. What looked like a routine highlight suddenly turned into a classic WTA snub, a quiet digital erasure that only makes sense when you follow the money, the sponsors, and the way this tour has been willing to edit its own stars out of the picture to protect commercial partners. In 2026, Aryna Sabalenka is not some fringe personality that the WTA can plausibly misplace. She is the face of power tennis, a multiple Grand Slam champion whose aggressive baseline game and outsized personality have carried the tour through injury waves, retirements, and stalled rivalries. Financially, she sits in the tiny group of women's players whose endorsement portfolio can rival their prize money, even if insiders say she still trails some peers in off-court deals. Reports through 2024 and 2025 placed her endorsement earnings in the multi-million-dollar range, buoyed by partnerships with major consumer brands and new post-IMG negotiations she pushed for herself. That makes whatever appears on her wrist, on her water bottle, or in a supposedly neutral WTA photo worth real money, both to her and to the people trying to sell the tour. At the same time, the WTA has been obsessed with its own image. The tour rolled out a rebrand and a new visual identity in 2025, promising cleaner, more modern graphics and a social media strategy built around short-form video, bold photography, and sponsor integration. Players immediately noticed how much those images mattered. Sabalenka herself publicly complained that the WTA kept choosing what she called ugly and wrong photos of players, and suggested that posting better pictures could help the sport explode in popularity. It was not just about vanity. In a world where a single frame can become the thumbnail, the ad unit, and the algorithm hook, that selection process becomes a quiet form of power. The deleted photo became the moment when those two forces collided: the WTA's need to sell its new era and Sabalenka's growing value as a walking billboard for brands that are not always the tour's official partners. In the image, the problem was not that she looked bad. The problem was that she looked too commercially specific. The logo on her gear or accessory belonged to a rival sponsor, and it sat in the dead center of the frame that the WTA wanted to push across every platform. For a couple of hours, the post went live anyway, long enough for screenshots and fan commentary to start spreading. When the photo disappeared and was replaced by a cropped, safer, or entirely different version, the pattern felt familiar to anyone who has followed recent WTA controversies. This is not happening in a vacuum. Over the last 2 seasons, Sabalenka has repeatedly found herself at the point where commercial rules collide with actual tennis. At the 2025 Cincinnati Open, she was told mid-match to strip the label from her San Pellegrino bottle because it clashed with the tournament's official beverage sponsor. The scene echoed a similar incident on the men's side involving Carlos Alcaraz and his preferred water brand. In Sabalenka's case, she could tear off paper and keep playing, but the visual was striking: a world #1 being told to hide a logo before she could hydrate. It was a reminder that for tournaments and tours, sponsorship hierarchies are not abstract. They are enforced courtside in real time. Off the court, Sabalenka's deals have become flashpoints in their own right. In 2025, she fronted a campaign for a tequila brand tied to her 27th birthday, complete with social media posts celebrating her favorite drink. fans immediately split into two camps. One group attacked both her and the WTA, asking whether promoting alcohol was really the value set the tour wanted its number one to represent. Another group pointed out that beer brands have sponsored Grand Slams for years, and that legends like Roger Federer had long been associated with champagne partners without similar outrage. The fact that a single photo of Sabalenka holding a tequila bottle could trigger questions about WTA values shows how heavily charged every commercial image has become. The WTA's own social feeds sit right at that fault line. On one hand, they need to showcase their biggest star doing what she does best, winning big matches and generating buzz. On the other, they can't afford to give free global distribution to brands that compete with their own sponsors or with partners they're actively negotiating with. Recent reporting described the tour's pursuit of a replacement title sponsor after its Holotic deal, with insiders talking about a push towards a blue-chip automotive partner that could reshape the WTA's finances. If you're courting a major car company while one of your core stars is closing her own independent deals, every billboard-quality photo of her in front of someone else's logo becomes a potential conflict. That's why this deleted photo matters more than a simple social media miscue. It fits a broader pattern where commercial priorities quietly edit the story of the sport. We've already seen players pushed around mid-match to comply with sponsor rules on bottles and wear, even when their personal arrangements predate the tournament's contracts. We've seen broadcast packages and highlight reels omit awkward moments that might embarrass partners, from contentious rule disputes to crowd-visible conflicts. And we've seen the WTA struggle to frame its own controversies, issuing vague calls for coordination when equipment rules collide with player expectations, instead of clearly defending the athletes who actually drive the product. The strangest part is that Sabalenka has done exactly what the WTA keeps saying it wants from her stars. She plays attacking tennis, leans into her personality, and generates enough drama to fuel entire news cycles. Her endorsement profile has grown even without the safety net of a mega agency like IMG, after she publicly parted ways and sought greater control over her brand. Insiders described that split as driven in part by frustration that her results and on-court stature were not translating into the same volume of deals as some peers, with her nationality and the broader geopolitical climate limiting certain Western partnerships. In other words, she has had to fight for every logo she wears. To then see those logos quietly erased when they clash with tour-level priorities is its own kind of humiliation. There's also a double standard question lurking underneath. The same system that will quietly crop a problematic logo out of Sabalenka's frame rarely offers the same ruthless precision when it comes to protecting players from the downside of exposure. When a fabricated intimate image of her circulated online in 2024, it was quickly debunked, but the episode underscored how vulnerable high-profile athletes are to digital exploitation. The WTA's public stance on safeguarding player privacy and well-being has often sounded strong in principle, yet the commercial machinery continues to treat their faces and bodies as endlessly monetizable surfaces. Cancel a photo when it threatens a sponsor, move much slower when the harm travels the other direction. The deleted shot sits at the intersection of all these tensions. On one level, it's the story of a social media team asked to solve an impossible puzzle: how to promote Aryna Sabalenka while minimizing the visibility of brands that don't pay the WTA. On another, it's a window into a governance structure where no one seems willing to draw hard lines about whose interests come first. Tournament sponsors, title partners, player endorsements, equipment approvals, and broadcast obligations all intersect, and the player can be perfectly within the rules in every domain and still be the one ordered to cover a logo, remove a device, or vanish from a feed. There's a world where this exact photo would have been a marketing dream, the reigning #1 captured in an unguarded moment, wearing the gear and accessories that make fans feel closer to her life off the court. Instead, it became a liability because the WTA and its commercial partners couldn't control every pixel. The decision to delete it and replace it with a sanitized or different version sends a clear message, even if no one ever puts it in a press release. The tour values Sabalenka, but only to the extent that her image can be aligned, cropped, and branded to fit existing deals. If her independent success as a commercial entity collides with that, the image goes. She becomes the outlier, the snub. For fans, this is why that disappearance felt more than a glitch. It crystallized an unease that has been growing across multiple incidents, from water bottle label policing to selective outrage over which products players promote. The WTA can't keep claiming it wants authentic personalities and then sanitize those same personalities whenever a sponsor might frown. You cannot sell a sport on the idea that its stars are powerful, independent women and then quietly erase the parts of their independence that you do not own. The deleted photo is the tell. It shows you who really gets to decide what belonging at the center of the frame looks like in WTA 2026. What makes this moment even more revealing is how neatly it fits into the WTA's emerging hierarchy of visibility. The players whose commercial lives align cleanly with tour partners rarely find their images contested. Their sponsor activations slide effortlessly into official content, their brand night events are amplified, and their off-court campaigns are folded into feel-good narratives about growing the game. Sabalenka, by contrast, keeps ending up in the gray zones, where independently negotiated deals, personal branding decisions, and the WTA's financial strategy collide. The water bottle label at Cincinnati, the alcohol campaign that split her own fan base, the choice of which photos to highlight and which to bury, all of it adds up to a pattern in which her value is undeniable but never fully controllable. That, more than anything, is why a single logo and a single frame can trigger a quiet erasure. It is tempting to dismiss these details as the inevitable friction of modern sports, where every square inch of fabric and every pixel of screen space can be monetized. But when those frictions repeatedly land on the same shoulders, they stop looking random. They start to resemble an unofficial policy. Celebrate the star when she fits the sponsor script, sideline her when she does not. For Aryna Sabalenka, the deleted photo is not an isolated insult. It is another data point in a long-running experiment in how far a top player can push her own commercial independence inside a tour that still depends on centralized partners to survive. For the WTA, it is a warning that fans are now watching the edit as closely as the action, counting not just who gets invited into the frame, but who gets snubbed out of it and why.